So the way I was looking forward to pressing that start live button, you have no idea. I almost started this live at 18 to 6. I don't know if it's excitement or it's my need to just let stuff off my chest. I don't know. But we are here. It's been, what, 2 weeks I've been away. Last week I really wanted to show up, but then something came up and just couldn't happen. But we are here today and I'm grateful for showing up. Today I'm particularly grateful for showing up because these past weeks, especially this last week, my heart has been heavy. Stuff has happened that has just caused my heart to be heavy, you know, from a personal challenge that I will not really talk about because it's not for this space. You know, there are things that you sometimes need to go through with a very few, not even a very few, maybe just one other person, because it's really your own burden to carry. I don't know if you need to call it a burden or what, but yeah, all I know is that I'm feeling very heavy of heart. So I'll just share a bit of that part of being heavy of heart. So I love music. I think it's now something that a lot of you guys know. So one of the very young artists in our nation passed on a death I felt was unfair. Well, of course every death is unfair, but for this one, like, it broke my heart. Like, you know, when a life is held on to for 10 plus hours, you'd be like, but that was a lot of time to do something to save this life. But yeah, we lost a very young talent. The guy was 25. Only 25, I will say. And yeah, as if that was not enough, I think it was on the Saturday night. Oh no, Sunday early morning, I see my mom Oshiwa puts up this elder who was magistrate here at least 4 or 5 years ago. We went to church together. I'm like, but then mom doesn't put people up like this. I opened her status. She's saying rest in peace. He was young also. I know the wife was younger than me, some 2 to 3 years younger. And so in a space of at least, yeah, I think they passed on the same day. Only the other one was on Friday, early morning. The other one Friday, late night. Imagine. And so what brought the heaviness of heart was the thought of how young lives that I believe are like, you know, productive lives. That's how I'll put it. I will cut short like that. It hit heavy on me, guys. I don't want to lie. I don't know if I've even recovered from that, but yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, praise has been heavy of heart of late, and we'll move on to my topic for today. I promised, I think the other week when I last had a live, I don't know what to call it. I was in a ranting mode. Yeah, I know Reporter Mambazi writes a lot of those, you know, a rant by, because a lot of stuff just came and I had to talk about how our generation has created patterns for ourselves that really promote our helplessness. That's how I'll put it. I was realizing how our generation, we have created so many things, thought processes, and our own, what can we call, even our own small environments that make us so comfortable in our helplessness. What I'll call, I know it's a lot of the stuff is so normalized that we feel weird even calling it out on platforms such as these. But I'll use an example of how someone will put on those they call them visas, those things that look like goggles, but then the moment you're wearing them, you are in your own world, in a manner of speaking. I've seen that in Stephen Magoli's, it's an entertainment park. You go there, or ziplining, a mini speedboat. I call it mini because as we have Lake Kariba. So when you go to the smaller, dam or whatever that's created in Harare, for you it's a mini speedboating, yeah. So I noticed there was this, a dome-shaped, they call it a spaceship. Yeah, spaceship, because it's shaped like one. And when you hear the people in there, they are screaming their heads off like they are about to die, And then I'm told, those visas which they put on, those goggles, they have connections that put them in an imaginary world of their own, a world where they can be meeting dinosaurs, they can be meeting, anacondas, and that's what makes them scream for their lives. And then when you are outside of that, you are staring and you're like, these guys, like, what's wrong with them, like that. So in the same manner, I've realized that our generation has done the same for ourselves. Holding on to warped, I call them warped thought processes, because they've gone through, the thought process was good, and then circumstances, trauma in this case, it causes for them to become distorted. That's what warped means. It's something that was taken from its original state, and it has been turned into, something that's now out of the normal. But then people still choose to hold on to that with the justification of the trauma, Yeah, that sounds so good. I actually loved how I was explaining that. Wow, to me, I really enjoyed what I said right there. I'm saying, I've realized that our generation has held on so much to thought processes that came as a result of trauma, and because we still want to remain comfortable in our pain, we refuse to have those processes challenged. I'm actually in a struggle of mine. I thought I wasn't going to talk much about this, but then I will share. It's an example of a warped thought process. When you have walked down a certain pathway, in all sincerity, there are people who take up people's matters and carry them sincerely, and then at the end you feel betrayed when things turn out a certain way. That's another what do I call it, an injury that comes with trauma, a need to control a narrative, And so you walk down a certain path and you somehow have to expect some form of reward, and then it doesn't come that way. And because you are unaware of how you have done things before, the same thing comes your way, and you do it exactly the same way, and you get hurt again, like, obviously. And so now, when you have reached a place where you have had a stopover for healing, that's what my last, probably, I'll put it as 2 years now, from January January last year up to now. It's what, like, yeah, almost a year and 10 months. Yeah, let's just put it that way. For me, this particular season of time was one of having a serious stopover for a deeper level of healing that I had never experienced before. I've mentioned before that I had mothers, I had fathers who, sit me down, help me with the word of God, help me with their wise counsel. Because me, I love to sit under, the elderly, those who have been married 3 decades plus. Yeah, I know Mama Rose is now what, 13, 14 years married. Yeah, those are my people. I know 14 is too little. I've actually lied. It's actually more, I know, because Donald, I think he's around, what, 19 now. So they must be 20 plus years married. Those are the couples that I love to sit under, because I know they have walked a very long path compared to myself, But we had reached a point where I knew I needed more, but I just didn't know where to get it, how to get it. And for me, like I've always mentioned, I always have people raised for me. Yes, they are raised for me, because I never planned to meet Mom Gladys Paswani. I never planned to meet Dr. Nelly Kangwa. Mom, yes, she's mom now also. You see, I never planned to meet Dr. Clinton Kadochi. There are people who came along just because I had a need. It's a grace. On this one, I'm really grateful, because it's easy to take for granted things that are really extraordinary, things that are out of the norm. And I want to acknowledge this for myself. I always do. For me, people are raised when exactly I need them. Because I remember the example, like for Dr. Kadochi, when he showed up, I had asked Mom for NLP. Mom, Dr. Nelly Kangwa, and because the schedule is so tight, she couldn't. She said, words that were like, no, you need to take this one thing at a time. But at that time, to be entirely honest, I felt that something needed to break. There's this point, maybe in the labor homes, those that have been there, they know there's a point where you cannot continue to keep the baby, housed in your womb anymore. I was at that point with the pain I felt at the time. I knew there's this level that needs another sort of intervention that will break it, or else it will break me, But Mom couldn't. And so I sort of left it alone, but I was not really settled on the matter. And barely a week or so later, Princess Bobby, she sends me a Zoom session link. She says, on this day, please join what. That's how Dr. Kadochi was the host to that Zoom call. And he was addressing what we call adverse childhood trauma, that, how it affects us in adulthood. And he was talking about, attachment styles, the dismissive, avoidant, anxious attachment styles, and then the secure one, the one which has, all things equal, is the secure one, where the person is not afraid to bond, is not afraid to separate from people and all that. That's how it came along for me. And then after that, now that I've experienced, it's not part of what we're going to talk about. I want to connect it to what we are saying, how holding on to warped thought processes will hold us back even when we think we are a level up in terms of our healing. That's what I'm struggling with right now. Because now a scenario has shown up, one that I was counting today. I'm like, Lord, this happened with this person, with that person, with that person. And then you're bringing this one along. To me, it's a repeat. of history. And to be entirely honest, I am failing to separate the experiences, the negative, painful experiences I've had with the 4 or 5 people I've counted before this particular one. I won't like go into detail of exactly what this is about, because I told you that some of these things are just for me alone and maybe just one other person. Yeah, it's unfortunate I cannot just lay it bare here. It's a public forum like that. But it brought me to our talk for tonight, how the warped thought process that says you may get hurt again will surely hold you back from doing what you know is the right thing to do, or is the good thing to do. You know, like it's a fear of history repeating itself. And I know I should be saying, you know, the thing you ought to do is just to do it afraid. You know, those are, you know, saucy statements. I should be saying that, but I am right in the middle of that struggle. Like, how do I continue in a pathway that I know is the right one, yet I have a history that refuses to be silenced on the matter. The history is holding me back so much. You know, one day you're all excited and you're all in, you're all committed on doing this particular thing, and then the next, you cannot even formulate a sentence. You are looking at this scenario and you're like, nah, it has to be someone else to do this. Yes, yesterday I agreed we're doing well, we're going, you know, we're doing well. But today I cannot do it. And you know, much as we may try to, like I said, to bring up these exciting statements that say, go ahead and do it anyway, there are days when that just won't cut it. Not so good news from someone who says healing is possible. Yeah, it is. But I'm glad that I've always mentioned on this Facebook that while healing is possible, it's going to be difficult, like all the time. Yeah, I'll put it that way, because I'll never want to dress up healing as though it's a pretty Barbie doll, you know, the brand new one these days, you know, with the frilly lacy dresses that are with sequins, we call them, yeah, with those mini jewelry, diamond like studs on here, sequined. Healing is never going to be that. And because I'm experiencing a struggle with the warped thought process that I am failing to overcome, I'm deciding to talk about it so that somebody may know also that there will be times when you are just unable to move smoothly like you have been doing all along, or because a real situation that looks very familiar has come along. For this one, I think, I don't know, I will need to engage somebody. I don't know who. Even right now, I'm failing to figure out who to talk to. I have been talking to this other person who has been here 5-6 years now. We have had, you know, tussles, you know, struggles between each other, because yeah, I am headstrong. I look for such people who are equally headstrong to argue with, so that I am helped to think in a different direction than I'm used to, right? And so we did have a conversation. They're very patient with me. Yeah, that's another thing I'm grateful for. I have people who are very patient with me. It's a trait I don't have very much of patience. Over the weekend, I went fishing for the first time, and I realized, most of my, that food stuff that we put on the hook at the end, it was getting eaten. The next thing I find, my hook is nothing anymore. Why? Because I was failing to pay attention to notice there's some movement, because the fish are also, clever. You, the one who's fishing, are using tactics, and because it's clever also, it's using tactics on you also. So many times I was finding that my trap for the fish has been taken, and I haven't caught any fish. So I realized, this may not be my space, because it requires a lot of patience. And so when I was talking to this person, one moment I thought I'd overcome, but then the fear of history, it's pulling me back in a manner that I feel I'm losing. Like I mentioned, yes, I've been doing well more or less of the days, but yeah, the number of days that I have been doing not so well are so many that probably I'm on my second hand now of counting the fingers. I'm like, today I failed, tomorrow I've done well, then the third day I have failed again. So I was trying to figure out, how does one, overcome a thought process that is enveloped in so much fear. How does one overcome that? I know, like I said, we have this thing of talking about doing things afraid, but what do we do when that is not working? How can we get out of that space where you feel your fear is winning over your quest to overcome? Yeah, I'm actually figuring it out now. Because I know many of us would expect an answer like now, but like I said, I'm choosing this particular one. I know I promised I was going to talk about how another warped thought process almost had me lose a relationship of high value, but now, because this one is the one that's currently taking place, one of learning to overcome a fear you thought you had. I've realized that in life you will be confident you have overcome something just as long as the practical lesson is not arrived. There are people who have been single 8 to 10 years, celibate, not seeking any side flings and whatnot. You can be very confident that now I'm holy, until that very beautiful or that very handsome guy, your exact type shows up, and now you find yourself you're actually in a relationship with them. Now this time they're not just passing by, they've just stopped and they are committing to you. That's when you will know if you've really overcome lust or or it's only because you didn't have the opportunity. So it's the same with these things that we feel we have overcome, like a fear of history repeating itself. You may think you have overcome it all because a practical scenario is not showed up for you in that season. But when it does show up, that's when you actually realize the amount of work that you need to do. And like I'm saying right now, I'm actually thinking of the resources that I may need to overcome this one. Because I'm refusing to take any. When you take the first tentative steps and then you still feel like, nah, this may just turn out how it used to. How do you overcome that? For this one I've mentioned, I don't have an answer for it. I'm just coming to just bring it out here. How do you get out of this place where you choose to abort a mission, or because you're afraid things will play out how they did before? And worse, where pain is involved, it's tough, guys, to actually walk down a path that you can almost see the end of it. Probably it's a taste of how far I have actually made it, you know, and learning some things. Like I said, my stopover for the past year and 10 months, it has really worked on some dirt and grime. You know, grime is that dirt that has built up over years. That's what was worked on for me in the past year and 10 months. And I actually, now that we're talking about it, I'm actually realizing that maybe, just maybe, some of these things that I have walked through and have caused me pain, they may be coming back for me to do things right this time. I know I wrote a post about that. Was it a month or so ago? I remember I put up a picture of a pathway that it was perfect for the story that I wrote, because it looked like a pathway that's going in and far into a place where you cannot even see the end of that path. Yeah. And so I remember on that post I was writing how when you look at an unfolding, a certain unfolding of events, you find that it feels like a deja vu. I've had those a lot. I'm a dreamer, you know, like Joseph. I am very much a dreamer. And so there are some of these dreams, you know, that I have had, you know, and maybe probably forgot. But then there are times when things will just start to take place and I'm like, nah, I know this unfolding, and I can almost tell the end of this thing. Then I realize, oh, I really did experience this. Yeah, it's a thing. I know it sounds psychic or whatnot, but then yeah, I'm not a believer of all those things, but I believe there are people who are gifted like that. And because for me, my yardstick is the word of God, I have Joseph to make reference to, you know. And Nebuchadnezzar the king, yeah, he dreamt a lot, and he dreamt things that came to pass. Yeah, Pharaoh even, he would dream 7 fat cows, and then they are eaten by 7 very thin cows that remain thin even after eating. And then he would get an interpretation that those are 7 years of good harvest, great harvest. The 7 years are of famine you have never seen and will never see again. And those things came to pass. So I actually believe that, yeah, there are people who have those things. So those deja vu moments when you look at this thing and it feels all too familiar, unfolds in an all too familiar manner also, you know, it causes for one to falter, you know, in their step. You were all confident, you know, skipping and, you know, praising God. Oh my goodness, I've overcome this, and then there it is, this particular one. I call it, I believe it's a type of history repeating itself in a manner that says you got to do things different this time. That's why I always talk about trusting a higher source, a higher power, you know, for moments such as these. Because I know in your own strength, I know in my own strength I'm failing to overcome. Yes, today I just came with disappointing news that the person was, all bubbly about healing and how they are making strides. In this particular season, they are faltering. They are failing to put one foot in front of the next, all because they are seeing a painful unfolding according to their history, according to how things have played out before. Like, I know how this thing turns out, so I'd rather not try. I'm right there right now. Another reason my heart is heavy, I don't have the resources for that. Probably if I look deep within enough, I'll find them. Only I believe right now I'm really not willing to even find out what I have within that can help me overcome this part. That's another thing, in our generation that have realized that sometimes I know that challenges come because we have what it takes to overcome, but more often than not, we actually just look at the previous outcomes of what we have been through and we decide we don't have the strength to do it, so we'd rather not try. So at the end of the day, even the resources that you have within you cannot even look within to find out what is it that you have, what is it that you carry that can help you overcome the fear of history repeating itself. Praise, what is it that you now know that you can actually use to continue with the task at hand and remain unscathed? Because the outcome has to be different at some point. I really believe that one cannot walk down the same path over and over and still experience pain. I remember there was a time in the history of my life I was going through a tough time, but I remember I used to sit in a corner and be like, Lord, you will not allow for me to cry forever. And the tears would be streaming right out to to my thorax. Right up to my thorax here. When tears come down here and they go down and they reach your thorax here. But I remember I used to be saying those words over and over. You will not allow for me to cry. Yeah. I'm laughing like, is that even the thorax? I need to go and check my biology textbook once again. Yeah, but then, that's besides the point. You just saw my, what do you call it, the voice box. It's just a moment of humor. I believe history repeats itself for us to know if we have learned the lesson enough to do things different. I call it doing things right this time, because what tells me that how I did things before was wrong was the outcome, the pain of lack of wisdom in how I carried out the same task. Yes, noble. Yes, you are, doing the work of the Lord. Yeah, I believe everything you are called to for purpose is the work of the Lord. Yeah. When you decide to step in and step out and, do what is needful for that time for things to move forward. I believe that's the work of the Lord. And then you remain behind and you feel hurt because you thought the narrative would play out a certain kind of way and it didn't. And now you have a very familiar replay taking place. And you're like, nah, I'd rather not. I'd rather just turn my back. But then I've learned that with these things that take place as history repeating itself, you can never really turn your back. Yeah, you can go out and have fun on the weekend, right into very late hours, and you're enjoying yourself, but somehow that thing does not leave even the back of your mind, and you know they are supposed to just walk down this path. So yeah, the answer, like I think I've just found, is to ask for help. Seek the help that you need. That's why it's good to have a support network. I know mine is strong. I am anchored, you guys. I was, you know, last week I was talking to a certain Brian guy who's in my life, who's been in my life for quite a very long time. And you know, these are people that I hardly ever talk about, or you hardly see me post them, but they are there. And so the picture that I noticed was one of, you know, anchors, you know, a ship that's floating on Lake Kariba, or a boat, you know. Here there are a lot of boats because people go for boat cruises. They go for, you know, 2 weeks or whatnot on the lake because it's bedroomed, it is. Eating areas, it is. Yeah, people do that. So when you see it afloat there, you may just see a boat, and you're seeing the, you know, the waves, the tempest that sometimes arises on the lake, and this boat is not being swept away, and you wonder, you may actually think, wow, this boat is very strong, and yet no, right beneath the waters, deep into the lake, there are anchors, you know, hooked right into the bedrock, the bedding of this lake to hold this ship down. That's how my life is. So a moment of gratitude for me. I realized I have people who are not in the physical space, but they are there, you know. So for the thought process that says I cannot try this again because I may get hurt again, I think it is to challenge your fear, you know. And to challenge it really is to really take the next step in spite of you being afraid. I know I said earlier on today that I may come here and actually claim do it afraid and whatnot. It's easier said than done, but really that's the solution to it, is to decide you're going to walk the journey. And while you walk the journey, notice where you did things wrong, the you know, the previous experiences that you had. Where did you miss the mark? Like for me, I know it's the fear that I carry within me has me want to control narratives. I will not, you know, step up and do this thing unless I'm sure it will work out this way. So you see, that's an aspect of me that I really need to work on in this season. Like, just go ahead and do things. Even when you don't know the outcome, even when you may not even find out the outcome. I guess this is where this whole task is taking me to. Like, do the needful. Don't mind the results. Don't even seek them out sometimes, because maybe they are none of your business. Yeah, does it even make sense to me right there? Like, how can you let me be involved in a task that I want to know how it will turn out? Yeah, but maybe that ought to happen that way, you know. Like now that we are actually even talking about doing a task and you may not even get to see the outcome. I'm realizing even the prophets in the Bible, most of them, they spoke of things that they never experienced in their lifetime. But they spoke them because they were convinced the one who has sent them is true. You know? Just go ahead and do the work. How it turns out is none of your business. Yeah, I know there are a few headstrong ones like Jonah, my favorite. I think I relate a lot with him. How I love reasoning and bringing arguments like, no, can't you take someone else to send someone else to do this because you know this and that. Reasoning praises a lot of those, you know. But I know there are a lot of them who spoke. Prophet Isaiah spoke of a Messiah that he never saw in his lifetime. But the way he wrote it with such conviction in the present tense, if you look at the book of Isaiah, you'll find that he was writing these things like he's actually seeing the Son of God right there. But he died and he never saw that. Daniel, you know, Daniel, I like how what he was talking about is unfolding right before our eyes, you know, in this generation. And yet, if you notice when he was writing those things, that was a very long time ago, even before the advent of Jesus Christ himself. But if someone was to walk how we do, probably they would have, you know, brushed it aside as, you know, just my thoughts. Because that's what some of us do when we meet with things we don't understand. We'll come to a place where we'll be like, no, this is just my thoughts, and we don't even write things down, you know. So sometimes that's what history comes to do, to teach you to just mind your task and leave everything else, because it's none of your business, you know. Seek the resources that work for you for warped thought processes. How do I overcome thought processes that are self-defeating? Because what I know is that every thought process that's distorted, it never serves you well. I know that because I have held on to a lot of them, and being comfortable in something that's distorted does not mean it becomes right for you. There are times when you need to challenge how you think. You need to challenge what it is you hold on to, because you need to do things that serve you better than what you are used to. So the call really is to seek the help that you need to address those things. Is it therapy? Is it a person that's stubborner than you? What is it that you need to challenge those thought processes? That's the first step of getting to heal warped thought processes, is to start challenging those same thought processes. Why am I thinking how I'm thinking? Where did this come from? Like I've told you, for myself, it's a fear really of pain. I'm like, no, I cannot go through this again. But what if you try? What if you try to take the steps? Because now, you know, what I've learned is that with pain and the experiences that we go through, there is enough lessons for you to know how to avoid pitfalls. That's how I can put it. You do things differently for different outcomes. You know, when you were in a relationship with this guy and you're giving him all your money and you're giving him your body, and you were acting like a wife to him when he had not married you, know he met another person and in 3 months they were married, yet you had been there for 6 years. Why not this time around, now that this guy has come, why not just hold your horses, be cool about it? And that's intentional. You know, doing things differently is intentional. You have to decide, and sometimes it takes your all the strength and the resilience that you have within. It draws at all of that, and it may feel like you may be unable to do it, because you may feel like your strength is being overly tested and you cannot overcome. But the truth of the matter is that your past experiences are the resources that you now have today to overcome. You have that history to show you this was your pitfall at this time, this was your pitfall at this other time. And now that you now know that giving your money to a man makes you be the one to wearing the pants. You become the man of the relationship, and no man really wants to be a kept man like that. Yeah, I know our generation again, like I'm saying, men who love to be kept. An oddity that we have normalized again. But then we are saying, when you have learned, this time you will just smile at them and be like, oh, I really hope things work out well for you, and not be quick to open your wallet, you know. Go out on dates at Caribbean Bay, Lake Shore. Don't you be agreeing for them to drop by at your place and you dropping by at their place, because you know that leads to that lustful behavior we call, you know, intimacy. You become all too touchy-feely too early, because you allow yourselves to be in secluded places, you know. And this time around, why don't we hang out in public places? Why don't we decide it's going to be entirely hands off, you know? So now that we are concluding this topic on history, the fear of, you know, going through processes that look like history repeating itself, the truth of the matter is that we do have the resources, we have what it takes. It is those, you know, those same things that you know caused you pain, and you know doing things differently this time around. What are you doing that is not the same as those last 5 experiences you were talking about, Praise? What are you doing differently this time? Are you allowing yourself to just do the task and not want to control the narrative? Because, you know, sometimes our hurt really comes from how we so think we've become God that we insist that it has to turn out this way, and then when it doesn't, we feel betrayed. Are you letting things just flow, Praise, while you're at your task this time around? Huh? What is it you are choosing to do differently to show you have learned? Because surely we cannot end this life with Praise admitting she's refusing to do a task, or because she's afraid history may repeat itself, and then we'll be like, oh, it's all well. No, it is not well when you decide you are going to not do a task you know you are supposed to do, or because you are so afraid that things the way it's now sounding ridiculous right now. I'm actually screaming at myself right now, like, how can you say you are going to not put the next foot forward, all because you're afraid the outcome may be the same? What have you learned from things that turned out not so well for you, that you are now going to pick, to draw lessons from? Huh? I believe these things come as paper 1 and paper 2, even up to paper 43. As long as you have not learned how you are going to write this particular paper differently? Are you going to study more hours? Are you going to join study groups this time around because you were it seems my data is finished. I don't know what this Airtel is doing these days. You know, you juice up your 800 megabytes and you don't see them on your balance, and the next thing you're getting a message that says you have used 20 megabytes. What? Someone helped me report this to Airtel, but Zambia, my Zambian family, please, because it's now getting really frustrating juicing up, Airtel data. And yet is the one that runs smoothly for these live chats that we have on here, So tonight what we have been talking about really is us challenging our limiting beliefs, because we cannot continue to not move forward in our lives all because we have beliefs that have held us back, based when referencing to real things that have happened before. It's not like they are just imaginations. It's things you have walked through and they have really caused you pain, and you know that I have been hurt walking down a path that looks exactly like this. But are we going to continue to refuse to do the work, all because we are afraid of history? We are saying what we will need to do really is to decide we are going to draw the lessons from those same painful experiences we had before. What are we going to do differently now that will help us do things with pleasing results this time around? That's step number one, drawing the lessons from those very same places you got hurt. What lessons did you get out of there that are going to help you get better results this time around? That's the message I'm going to leave with us tonight, because Airtel apparently is telling me I no longer have data, and I am arguing that point, but then it still continues to eat into my airtime. So we have to end this year. We'll continue next week because I'm so sure we still have a lot to talk about regards those places we've taken ourselves into that make us comfortable to stay in our retarded states or helpless states. That's what I'll call them. We cannot remain in those places of helplessness, all because we choose to not look at the broader perspective. We choose to not search out the help that we need in order to be able to move forward differently. We will need to do things differently by deciding to get help. Airtel continues to be telling me they are eating up my airtime. So we'll meet again next week, you guys. So continue to ponder about what warped thought processes are holding you back, and while you're at it, think about what tools you now have that can help you overcome. That's what going back to those painful places is supposed to do for us. We're supposed to find the tools, the resources that we got out of there. What lessons did we learn that are going to help us move forward in a better manner? Good night, and see you